Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Nostalgia. In summer of 2025, this most recent summer, my family took a trip to Europe. And today I'm going to do a breakdown of that trip and show you some pictures. This is not where I will do the financial breakdown. That's on my main channel, Dugroz Reports. This is just the slideshow and the fun stuff. Let's dive in. So to start with, we repositioned from Des Moines, Iowa to New York City, and then we flew on Virgin Atlantic in premium economy across the ocean. And we're headed for the United Kingdom. Specifically, we're headed for Manchester Airport, which is sort of in the middle of the United Kingdom. And that's where we landed. Apparently, our airplane was specifically called the Fearless Lady, I guess, the one we rode on. And then we took a train from Manchester over to York. York is sort of an old historic town. Here's the train station in York. We did get a day rate hotel in Manchester just to take some naps because we were jet lagged from the time change and all that. Then we started walking to our hotel. By the time we got there, it was mid to late afternoon. York is a very historic town, very beautiful, very picturesque. And our lodging was the Hampton Inn by Hilton Piccadilly there in York. And although it was basic and cozy, it was perfectly cromulent. Good lodging, no complaints about it whatsoever. There was the room for my wife and I, and there's the room for my two boys. I have a wife and two twin boys who are teenagers. So that's who I was traveling with. Woke up the next morning, got ready to hit the ground and explore the town of York, which kind of looks like this. Lots of narrow streets, a bit of a medieval feel. And the first place we went to was called the Old Treasurer's House. And it was called the Old Treasurer's House because the treasurer of the church lived there years and years and years ago. But by the time you get to the 1800s, or maybe it was early 1900s, I don't remember which, the occupant of the house was this guy, Mr. Green, and he was a coal tycoon, made his money in the world of coal, and a very particular guy. He was a bachelor his whole life and kind of fixed the place up and had it exactly the way he wanted it, and everything had to be just so. And he collected a lot of artwork and antiques and cool things, so here I am on the staircase with some of those antique photos. My wife on the staircase with some of the same antique photos. Here's my family in the waiting room, waiting for the tour to get started. Or no, I don't think this was the waiting room. I think this was the first room of the tour. Guy on the left is the tour guide, or one of the tour guides. After we walked around the inside there was this bench nearby that had a statue of Paddington Bear, which we thought was kind of cute and interesting. Not too far away from the Old Treasurer's House was one of the original Roman walls. Not the fence my family's leaning against. This is my wife and two boys, but kind of here in the background, you can see a stone wall that's about 5 feet tall. That's one of the original Roman walls. But then we climbed up onto the medieval walls, which are the big ones, built by the Yorkers under a little bit of construction, but they had staircases every now and then where you could access it. Mrs. Dugroz looking out over the edge of the walls. And one of the things we were looking at was they were having this very formal garden party, a kind of a fancy hat party for the upper crust of York, I suppose. It was a beautiful day to walk on the walls. It was a little overcast. I don't think it rained, or if it did, I don't remember it at least. Minimal rain or no rain at all, but made for some good pictures because it was overcast just enough to, be able to take those kind of pictures. At one point, we're walking along and we come to this thing called the Red Tower, and we go inside the Red Tower, and there's this random guy on the second floor describing a little bit of the history of the tower. It was sort of like a lookout tower in the far south or far east or something. And he also talked about the charitable work they do there once per month. And they gave out free water. You could see cool views around York through the little crenulations on the wall. I think that's the right term. There were places where the walls of the city didn't have any sort of railing. And I thought this was kind of an interesting one where you're walking straight and then you have to go around a corner. They put up a little guardrail here because I wonder how many people were walking straight, looking at their phone, not paying attention, and then just walked off the edge of the wall. If I didn't make it clear, so York is a walled city. The original city of York has had, and for the most part, still has walls around it. They're not perfectly contiguous with the original walls, but probably 2/3 of the original walls are still there. And of course, the city's grown beyond the walls at this point. You can look down from the wall at one point, see this old ice house. I don't know if that was medieval or more like Renaissance era. Another picture of the walls with yours truly. Eventually, you come to this little abutment. Not sure what the official name is, but like a place where they built a second and third story on the wall of like a little business over a gate. And I don't know what it was in medieval times, but nowadays it's a coffee house. And you can kind of see where it goes out and around. That's my wife and one of my boys there sitting to just enjoy their coffee or beverage or whatever it was. You can also go up this little, very narrow staircase, not made for people over 6 feet tall, or I'm not 6 feet, but I'm getting kind of close. You got to duck or you hit your head. And then you come out on top of that second story on top of the gate area. And it's just like a little place where you can sit and enjoy your beverage or coffee. And this is looking back towards that same tower there in the middle where the gate was. After we finished walking the walls, we didn't go all the way around the city. We went about 60%, 2/3, something like that. We started walking back towards our hotel, freshened up, and then kept walking to find a place to eat. And the place we found to eat was Wendy's, very historic place. I'm kidding. We just got something small because we thought we would get supper later. In fact, I don't even think I had any food. I just had a drink, but my kids had some chicken nuggets or burgers or something. What's weird is this Wendy's was extremely popular, like so busy, probably the busiest Wendy's that I've ever seen. Anyhow, when we were done with that, from our room, we could see this castle called Clifford's Tower. It's not the entirety of a castle, but if you know what a motte and bailey is, this is the motte, and it's all that's left. After medieval times were done, I think it was bought by the Clifford family, which is why they call it Clifford's Tower. And here's the inside of it, me up on the second level saying, "Welcome to my world." That's clearly where the Lord of the Castle looks out. Here is my son Ben pointing to a grate in the floor. You know what that grate in the floor originally was? It was a potty. So that's where medieval people used the bathroom. Once you get up on top, that's what it looks like. This is the I don't know, that's a spire of some church, but over here in the way background, you can see the York Cathedral, which we will go to tomorrow. And then looking out this direction, it looks just kind of like a parking lot, but I wanted to point out this is where our hotel is. It's this kind of tan and black building right here. Unfortunately, our room didn't face that. It faced a different direction. I shouldn't say unfortunately, because we had a good view of the cathedral. And this is like looking out one of those little windows that's just wide enough for an archer to shoot arrows out. That was kind of nifty. As I'm leaving the tower, I noticed, boy, does it seem like it's leaning to you? And the man at the front door who worked for the National Trust assured us it's not going to fall over. It is leaning slightly due to settling, but we're good. Nothing's going to fall down. Here's a couple more pictures of the bench with Paddington. I don't remember if we walked by it a second time or if I just got these pictures out of order. My wife, my boys there with Paddington. There's a little girl that goes to our church who's about 2.5 who loves Paddington. So we wanted to get those pictures to tell her we got to go to where Paddington lives. At the end of that day, toward evening, we went back to the market area not too far from our hotel. And we found a place to eat called Mr. Chippy. It was a fish and chips place, and there's my son standing in front. This is sort of like a local Long John Silver's. It's a lot better than Long John Silver's, don't get me wrong. We wanted to sit in the second floor, but they were actually closing, so we had to go sit out on the courtyard and eat. There's the fish, there's the chips. Interestingly, you had to pay extra for ketchup. That's not how we do it in America, but that's okay. It was delicious, actually. It was really, really good. And if I remember correctly, they had a gluten-free version, which my wife is gluten-free, so she enjoyed that. And then off to bed. The next morning, 7 o'clock a.m., all the fire alarms in the building start going off. So everybody at the Hampton Inn goes outside, while they check to make sure there's not a real fire. So that was a fun way to start the day. This our second full day in York. We had 2 full days because we had 3 nights, but the first night was basically arrive and go to bed. Second full day, we went to a place called the Jorvik Viking Centre. York is actually a play on the Viking word Jork or Jorvik, and there used to be Vikings that lived there, and most of it was underground. Actually, everything except the gift shop and the area where you go in is underground, so it was really hard to take good pictures, but they had these animatronic Vikings. I don't have very many pictures of it, but that was an activity worth doing. There's a replica Viking shield. I don't think that's an authentic one. When we came out, we had to pass a little bit of time, so we just waited there in the streets of York. One thing that's interesting about York is there's like a church every other block. Just constantly you'll find church spires, bell towers, just all over the place. It's just really, really cool. After leaving the Jorvik Viking Center, we wanted to go to the bathroom and go buy some supplies at like a general store. And Google Maps or Apple Maps, one of the two, took us down this little tiny alley, and we ended up nicknaming it the Stinky Alley because it smelled terrible. I don't know what was going on there. But when we were on our way back from there, my wife is like, let's find a different route. I don't want to go down the Stinky Alley. Then we walked to our next destination. We were going to tour the cathedral there in York, and we walked down these narrow streets to get there. And here it is. This is called the York Minster. Now, what's the difference between a cathedral and a minster? I'm not really sure. I think minsters are bigger. That's my understanding. But yeah, wow, look at that. This building took, I think, hundreds of years to build. Just outside the minster is a statue of Constantine the Great, who was proclaimed the Emperor of Rome in AD 306. If you know history, you'll remember that much of what is now England was controlled by the Roman Empire in those first several years of the ADs. And his dad died back in mainland Europe while he was here in what is now England, conquering the Britons. So that's where he got crowned emperor. Here we are inside the minster. Just, oh man, the stained glass was so beautiful. There's this little room off to the side. I can't remember what it's called. It's like an octagon where they would hold council on various things. Here's part of the room where you can see some of the sides, just stained glass everywhere. They also had these really cool little statues, which I'm assuming they're all handmade, all the way around the edge. This guy's doing that. I'm not sure why. Here's a random guy fighting with a dragon or a fish or something like that. The seats were even labeled. Now, I'm assuming by now these are just ceremonial titles, but like chairs where when they are in council and all the, I'm not sure what they call them, deacons or presbyters sit. This is where they get to sit when they hold council. The prebendary of Botavant, Canon Egot. Very, very official, very formal. More of the stained glass. Boy, I tell you, my wife and I decided we could probably just make a living or maybe our retirement out of going around looking at different Church of England churches and all the beautiful stained glass and that kind of stuff. One thing that caught my attention was the bathrooms here in the Minster. This is the inside of one. Instead of having men's rooms and women's rooms, they just have a bunch of individual stalls. It's like a hallway, kind of looks like this with like 30 to 40 different stalls, and you just go in there. The doors go all the way floor to ceiling. You lock yourself in, do what you need to do, and then come out and wash your hands in a public area. There are people who are buried in the Minster, and the wealthier you are, the fancier your grave marker is. This one was pretty fancy. This is sort of like the epic stained glass window on the far end. It was just awesome. There was a tour guide who explained it. There wasn't like one tour guide that took us everywhere, but there were just people stationed here and there. There was one tour guide, I guess, who took us like underground or something like that. I skipped a slide. I skipped multiple slides. Sorry about that. This is the one that's next. They were actually repairing some of the stained glass. So we got to see some of the tiles up close. Probably all those little pieces were laid by hand. This is somebody teaching their Sunday school lesson here, AD 307, something like that. There's these statues of, I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. I think these are different, maybe kings of England, but don't quote me on that. Just outside this middle area, here's the statues down here, called the choir or quire, something like that. It's almost like a church within the church. But after the tour time, if you stayed, they actually had I think it was called Saturday Evensong service, where they had a church service that the public was welcome to attend. It's like open in the middle, it's like a church within a church. That's the best way I can describe it. Within this walled area, they had a service where you sit on either side. You sat in these wooden pews built into the wall. Mine was labeled High Steward, so I'm not sure why I got the privilege of being the High Steward, but I did. You weren't allowed to take photos or videos during the church service, which that makes sense. So I don't have any pictures of that, but that was worth doing. If you're ever able to go to an evensong, I would recommend it. After coming out right outside the cathedral, there's this ancient Roman column. It's the only one they were able to salvage. And the funny story here is that I just wanted to take a picture of it, like standing next to it. And I even walked up to it, and this mom and two kids were sitting there. And I said in kind of a loud voice, "Boy, I'd sure like to take a picture with me or my family." And they didn't budge. And after like 30 seconds of awkwardly standing there staring at them, I'm like, "Okay, fine. I guess you're going to be in my picture. So congratulations, whoever you are. You get to be in my picture because you didn't take the hint." After leaving there, we walked down this street called the Shambles, which is a well-known area. It's where the businesses get closer and closer together as you go. And they even had some people in like period costumes manning the shops. Lots of breweries, lots of chocolatiers and candy stores. They say, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, that at some points the streets are so narrow, someone could reach out a second story window and shake hands with someone across the street. I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I see what they're getting at. If you look carefully in this picture, my wife is right there in the middle, looking up, admiring the Shambles. And then we found a restaurant to eat at. This one was called Bill's. Bill's Restaurant and Bar. And we ate there, and it was good. One thing that was exciting for me was it was the only place on our entire vacation that had ranch. They called it Buttermilk Ranch. So we had burgers. I think we all had burgers, and they were really, really good. Walked back to the Hampton Inn right there. Everything in York pretty much was within walking distance. Went to bed. So that was our, the end of our second full day. And then after the end of the third night, we woke up. It was time to leave. So we walked down this narrow alleyway to find a bus stop. Unlike the stinky alleyway, this one was actually quaint and charming. Got an old man coming towards me there. And even though it was summer, it kind of looked like fall in this picture. This tree just had pretty leaves. And here we are just waiting for the bus stop. And the bus took us to the train depot. That's how we got from the Manchester airport over to York and back. But this time, since we were a little more rested, got a picture of what the train looked like. It was called the Transpennine Express. Express doesn't make as many stops as the other train does, I found out. And this is the inside of the train, what it looks like. Inside the train with family. And went to the Manchester airport and then got a rental car. And the reason I got a rental car, steering wheel on the right, is because we're headed for Wales, and that will be part 2. We drive to Wales and we spend 4 days there. So this concludes part 1. Please subscribe to this channel if you want to hear how the rest of it goes. Click the thumbs up button. I would sure appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.